Okay, well, can you hear me because I can't hear me? Is that all right? Good, okay. So, thank you for having me do this presentation. It's really just a short update on where we've got to so far with the national strategy and where we're going. So as you can see, I'm Phill Dickens from University of Nottingham and Additive Scientific Limited. I'm one of the members of the steering group. There's quite a group of people involved now. And so we've just produced this document, which is really the latest state of play on the UK strategy. We will be able to give you one of these if you want one of these. So my colleague James is at the back. He'll be at that door and I'll be at the other door with a box of them. If you don't get one in this session, then I'll be on the Added Scientific stand where you could pick one up, because there's another 2 boxes there. So just to go through where we are then. So this document that we've got today is not the strategy. It's describing where we are and where we're going and how we're going to get to the strategy. So it's really an update, and this is partly a consultation document, but it's also to get more people involved. One of the issues that we've got is that we actually need more people involved in developing the strategy from a wider range of sectors. So we'd be really grateful if you feed back to us on this, any comments you've got, whether you agree, disagree, things we've missed or whatever. So in terms of what we've got in this document, it is the current position, the way the strategy is being developed, and we've already achieved various things. We've already come up with some recommendations in this that those can be acted on now. Most of the recommendations really won't happen until April next year. So we've had a lot of industrial support in generating this document. So we've got Neil Mantle, who's the chair of our steering group from Rolls-Royce, and the Catapult, the high value manufacturing Catapult, has been very supportive, both morally and to some extent financially. So that's been really welcome. So the forwards are from Neil Mantle and Dick Elsey from the high value manufacturing Catapult. And as you can see on the right there's a number of senior industrialists that have also supported this activity. And so from a range of companies, and some of those companies are represented on our steering group. And the plan is to actually expand the size of the steering group and get a wider range of industrial activity involved. So if I was to emphasize one slide from my presentation, this is what I think the main thing is about. This is not about me from a university trying to develop a research strategy or saying that we need research in this area or that area because I'm interested in it. This is all about how can the UK make money out of additive manufacturing, and how can we do it better in the UK than other countries. That's what it's really about. And so we've estimated that we can get 8% of the market. And one of the problems we've got here is getting real market figures is really difficult. So you'll see various reports that are published from different consulting organisations about how big the market is, how big it's going to be. You have to take those with a bit of pinch of salt, or a big pinch of salt, because they're a lot of guesswork. So there's no reliable figures. And if you look at where the UK is in installed machines, we're around about 4.3% according to the Wohlers report. And if you assume that the value of the market that we have in additive manufacturing is roughly equivalent to the installed base, then what we're trying to do is to essentially double that. So we're trying to get to 8% of what we think the market will be. And as you can see, that is worth a lot of jobs and a lot of money. So we've set out the vision from the steering group of where we're going, and for me, the top one on the left is really key. So we want to be really good at exploiting additive manufacturing. And if you go back to the early 90s, when a few of us that are still around and got grey hair or no hair, in the early 90s, I think the UK was really good at exploiting rapid prototyping. And we latched onto it. And so I think, personally, my feeling is the two best countries exploiting rapid prototyping was the USA and the UK. I think we can do the same with additive manufacturing. So there's a number of parts of this vision that you can see, and you can read those in the report. What we've done then is we've decided to do the work around 5 key themes, and these are those themes. And you can see at the end, measuring progress means looking at some real numbers, and that's a very difficult one. But I'll go through each of these. So the first one is coordination and communication. So there's a whole series of thematic groups that we've established to look at various aspects of additive manufacturing in the UK. And these groups are meeting and looking at the problems, looking at the barriers, trying to think of solutions, and they're working on these different areas. So for example, the top one there, cost, investment and financing. And so how is this investment area going to work? And that's led by Richard Hill at RBS NatWest. And then you can see as we go down, we've got design, IP protection and security, obviously materials and processes. Although the materials and processes are significantly better than they were, say, 5 or 10 years ago, there's still a lot of work to do, still a lot of improvements to make. For me, I personally think the biggest issue there is skills in education. And I think we have a massive task in upskilling the whole community, the whole manufacturing design community. There's still issues around standards and certification, and then test and validation. So, for example, standards and certification, I had a major automotive company ring me up yesterday because they're looking at implementing additive manufacturing for external car parts. And they're saying, what standards can we use? How are we going to ensure the quality of the process? There's a few standards, but not enough. How are we going to ensure that the surface is correct for painting if they're going on exterior parts? There's a whole area of problems there. The second area is strengthen the industrial sectors. And this is one area where we really need your help. And so we need all of the sectors to be involved in this activity. It's not just aerospace, it's not just automotive, it's marine, it's the food industry, consumer products, whatever it is. All sectors have got a role in this area. Some sectors are ahead of others in different ways. Okay? Some sectors have got different time scales. So there's different issues in different sectors. So we need that input from people. I mentioned the skills and knowledge. I was trying to get some figures on this for how big is the problem. Now, if you look at the Institution of Mechanical Engineers, it's got 91,000 members in the UK. I was talking to them, how many people do you think of your members need upskilling in additive manufacturing? They estimate between 15 and 50% of their members. Who's going to do this upskilling? Right? Where is this going to happen? And that's just the Institution of Mechanical Engineers. What about all the other people, the other institutions, people who aren't in institutions? There's a massive, massive task there to be done. And apprenticeships, kids in school, so on. Sorry? The question is, what's happening about the huge gap? A ad hoc approach at the moment. So you've got various organisations that are providing some skills, training and so on. I don't think we're even scratching the surface. It's a massive task. So we need to first figure out what is happening, how big is the problem, can we really get a good estimate, and then who is going to solve that problem. And for me, certainly for my company, Additive Scientific, massive commercial opportunity there in skills, as with lots of other people. We then got the investing in the UK capacity. So how is this going to happen in the UK? We've got a national centre for additive manufacturing at the MTC. So there's some resource. I don't think there's anywhere near the resource that we need in the UK. And then measure progress. So we're saying we're going to get to 8%. We need some hard figures of where we are at the moment. So if you look at the standard industrial classification codes and the annual business survey returns, trying to match those up and figure out where is the opportunity here and how much are we taking of that opportunity at the moment. We need a really good method of doing that. So we then need a commitment to implementation. So it's no good coming up with a strategy in April next year and saying, there you are, we've done it. Actually, the most important part is the implementation plan. And some of that will be, some of that implementation will be done commercially. So there's lots of companies that you can see here that will be involved in that implementation plan. Some of it will have to be done by government because there'll be a gap and there'll be no one to step up to the mark. So what we need to do is to figure out what needs to be done by government and what needs to be done commercially. So in terms of what we'll achieve, these are the 5 main blocks that go with those programs. So one of the things that you can see on the top left there is establish a national point of focus for additive manufacturing. And we've been discussing with TCT what their role could be and so on. We don't have that here. So, for example, if you go to the US, we've got the Society of Manufacturing Engineers Association for this area. There's America Makes and so on. What we really need is a body in the UK that brings things together and helps to direct people to where they need to get help from. The second one down is a massive UK awareness program. So one of the problems is there isn't a market there for all this training at the moment, in reality, because companies don't even know they need that training. And so we've got lots of other areas that we're going to be working on as well. So we've already come up with a number of recommendations. These are recommendations, if you like, that are obvious from the work we've already done. And by the time we get to the strategy report, April next year, I'm sure we're going to have a lot more recommendations. So, for example, number one, the sector councils and leadership groups really need to be taking this activity on board. So each sector needs to be looking at what is their use of additive manufacturing and what are the problems that they're facing, what can just that sector sort out, and what is it that needs to be done on a national level. Because, for example, if there's a problem for just the aerospace sector, well, the aerospace sector can get on with it. They don't necessarily need help from the rest of us. We've looked at possible trade associations and so on for this national point of focus. That's still very much work in progress at the moment. One of the interesting things that's coming out of government at the moment, well, I think for me the biggest interest is now having a prime ministerial committee looking at an industrial strategy, which is like great news. We should have done it a long time ago, and we should always do it. But at least it's starting to happen. And it looks like place is going to play a very important part in how we take this forward. And so people are starting to talk about clusters of activity. And we already have clusters in additive manufacturing. They're there, I just don't think they're recognised. So do we need to improve those clusters, build them up? And the local enterprise partnerships could have a real role to play here. Because if funding is going to start coming from government, then it may well be that it's going to the local enterprise partnerships to sort that out. And so there's a number of recommendations there. You can read the report to pick those up. I think for me, though, one of the things that we've got now is a willingness to listen to this sort of a strategy in government. I think we've over the last 10, 20 years, we've had different governments in place. Some of them are much more, different secretaries of state have taken a very different attitude to industrial strategy. So is it completely hands-off, or is it, no, let's get involved? So we go through cycles of interest. I think the current cycle of interest is, okay, we might not get completely involved, but this is something that we need to support. And so I think, it's a very positive time in many ways for us to be. And okay, you could look at Brexit as a disaster or as an opportunity. For me, I think it has. The one thing that it has done is it's shaken up the government, and we've got people in position at the moment that are more willing to listen. And so this is a great opportunity for this part of the industrial activity to really step up and make a real impact on the UK. So, sorry for those of you that are not from the UK, because you're probably thinking we could do this better in our country. Maybe you could, but this is very much about really making the UK a great place for additive manufacturing. So, if you want a copy of the report, my colleague James will be at that door. I'll be at that door in a second. If you miss either of us, then come and grab me at the Added Scientific stand, and I'll have another couple of boxes there. So, thank you very much.